Hi, folks. Welcome back to Full Bore Silver. Hey, a word on preparedness in this impending storm. We're supposed to get hit pretty hard with ice and such here in Texas. Go check out Aaron Texas Silver, his page. 3 weeks ago, he did a fantastic breakdown of everything you need for preparedness. This guy's a former combat Marine. He's a first responder. He's a firearms instructor. So he knows what the what is. Go listen to that. Just to add to that, hey, listen, I know your significant other found a $15 blender on Facebook Marketplace, but now is not the time to go driving around on Sunday morning, skidding around the ice and smashing into things to go get the $15 blender. It can wait. Also, a couple things to consider. Please have your water, your food set aside, easily accessible. Make sure your smoke detectors, carbon monoxide detectors have batteries, are working. Pet food, heart meds, first aid, battery packs are charged. Get your firewood inside and dry. Do not burn softwood, pine, greenwood, wetwood. Do not burn that in your fireplace. Check your flue and your pipe from your fireplace for excessive creosote buildup. It's kind of too late to get a chimney sweep out at this point, but if you've got a ton in there and you've got blockages, you're going to want to take a different route if the power goes out and you need heating. Also, have your winter weather gear ready and accessible. Boots, gloves, hats, merino wool base layer. Merino wool is the only base layer you should have, not the polysynthetic crap made out of oil. The only reasonable substitute is alpaca wool, which I know that's what Aaron Texas Silver uses because he's very fancy. I have merino. Boots, gloves, headlamps, make sure those are all charged up, ready to roll. Also your lead slingers, your knife, and if you want to get really fancy, because we're getting ice down here in the south, crampons. You should already have these, but if you haven't, make sure you have them for the next storm. You just slip them over your boots and you're ready to roll in any sort of ice situation. So please be careful. We're going to hope for the best and prepare for the worst, as we do with everything. Now, silver, highest weekly close in human history, nominally, over 103. Gold almost hitting 5,000 an ounce. Woo, what a week. Unbelievable. So the US dollar is in huge trouble. We see 10-year going through the roof, Japanese economy unraveling, all of their bond yields, treasury yields going up, up, up and away. Nobody wants this debt. They got to crank these yields to attract debt holders. Nobody wants it because you're taking a tranche of money at net present value, investing it in some degrading economy, and you're losing net present value every second that rolls on. So these economies are in trouble. Zooming out, as empires decline, like the United States, they get wealthier, but they become much less efficient, and so they have to outsource all the labor. That's why China is now the workshop of the world. That's why cars are made in Mexico. And then you see the rail coming through Texas, and it's just car chassis after car chassis, hundreds of cars long, coming back into the country, where all those American cars, they get their start in Mexico. So we outsource all the hard work because people are now involved in like the Asian Bisexual Studies Department at the government and DEI and all the other wasteful invented industries, the healthcare insurance industry, etc. It's all, nothing is created. There's no actual monetary gain generated from these economies. You also have more of a balkanized society because we have to import cheap labor to do what few manufacturing and agriculture, meat packing, etc. needs to be done. So we have a more balkanized, less cohesive culture than we once did. And you look at the cultural makeup of someplace like Minneapolis, Chicago, Philly, Detroit. I mean, these cities not 40, 50 years ago were 90% white European lineage. And now it is just a mishmash in Detroit, and I have business interests in Detroit. I have metals stored through my IRA in a depository not too far south of Detroit. It's kind of worrisome, actually. tempted to drive up there and haul my metal out of there. And you literally have minarets sit up in mosques in different parts of Detroit where you have the call to prayer 5 times a day. This does not make for a cohesive culture. And you have infighting amongst the groups. People lose civic virtue, social responsibility. They don't want to help their neighbors in the event of a catastrophe. It's all part of the balkanization of society. It's kind of a scary event, and that's why we put so much emphasis on the preparedness and stacking real hard assets. The dollar is declining by the second. The dollar is no longer the metric by which you measure wealth. If you chart it, if you're a calculus person on the XY graph, the Y-axis now is not the dollar. The only Y-axis is gold and silver. That is how you measure everything. That's why we're so excited about commodities, because if you chart something, say coal, natural gas, oil, industrial gases, fertilizer against gold, we are forming this wedge down in the corner near the XY axis, and it is consolidating, ready for an explosion. So that's a little bit more advanced TA that I'll get into next week. Now, and you get the trolls, you get the clowns, they come in, they say, saying silver or gold is going to go down, and it could retrace a couple bucks. These are fake COMEX prices. The real prices, and now they're skyrocketing, going through the roof in Dubai, Shanghai, Hong Kong, Tokyo, India, etc., South Korea. Saying gold or silver will go down is basically saying the US dollar will do a U-turn and is no longer debased and no longer an inflated fiat note, treasury note. It is not a real unit of currency. It is a treasury note from the U.S. Federal Reserve, which is controlled by the Bank of International Settlements in Basel, Switzerland. Totally ridiculous. Yes, I know. That's why we stacked the silver. A little fired up today. Been hauling firewood all day. Many normies out there are going to have a really painful coming to terms with the fact that we are going to start undergoing a monetary reset, and their savings and their stocks and their Nvidia and their money markets, all of that is going to be fractionalized. Everything that these people worked hard for their entire lives, being dutiful taxpayers and Americans and citizens of this country, that is all going to be fractionalized. That is going to be really painful. That's why if you are a physical silver stacker, maybe you dial down the rhetoric a little bit. You don't talk about what you have. And if you do, then it's a good idea to have the lead slingers, to have your stuff spread out amongst different storage areas, to have your community of boys and hardcore women that are ready to get your back in this situation. So that's all I'll say about that. At Celebrate Christ, one of our esteemed commenters asked me to talk a little bit about miners. I'm not going to get into it really heavily right now. Obviously, this past week has been one of the largest percentage gains ever in the mining space. Now, during the off years, probably 2012 to 21, and correct me if I'm wrong in the comments, but when we had that real dip after the last major silver surge, I believe the figure is 2,800 miners went out of business. It just became no longer economically feasible to go and mine even high-grade ore deposits. Well, that is all changing. Now, for the average person, the regular individual interested in harvesting fiat out of the stock market so you can put it into physical metals and your preparedness and your lead slingers and your first aid kits, farmland, stored food, water, etc. I would recommend going with the ETFs that have the low expense ratios, are well managed, and then you get a broad-based exposure to a lot of different miners. I'm talking about some of the Sprott funds, the PSLV, the SLVR, etc. Sprott is a fantastic manager. The problem is Sprott is a Canadian company, and you have no idea what the communist Canadian government's going to do. They can nationalize things. All of a sudden, they can say Americans are not allowed to invest in Canadian companies, etc. I mean, American companies run 75% of the Canadian petroleum business. When this country, Canada, run by globalist Mark Carney, gets super desperate and the confiscatory behavior starts to increase, they are going to try to nationalize some of these commodities. So think about that. That is always a risk you take in investing in miners in some of these crazy countries, all right? If you want to get away from the ETFs, you've got these companies that are incredible. Newmont, Hecla, Core, Equinox, Barrick. I mean, Newmont has $136 billion market cap. Hecla, $21.32 billion. Core, $16 billion and change. Core right now is at $26 a share. I think it's going to 70. It will have pullbacks during metals pullbacks, but you got to ride the lightning here. And, you buy it, you hold it, and you're ready to roll. Also, they will be affected if there is a major stock market pullback, so know that. Vizsla. From 2020 to today, Vizsla mining, 6,000% return. Okay, so I know some physical stackers out there are really sour on investing in miners and equities. You're turning your blind eye on a way to harvest fiat currency, but I do respect you for putting that premium on having physical precious metals. So I'm not going to say I necessarily disagree with you. Talking to my nephew last night, if you've got some extra change and you want to be really, really, really speculative, and you're willing to lose 100%, maybe you take a little micro fraction of that extra change and you get into like a GR silver mining, a Silver Mountain Resources, Guanajuato Silver, Abra Silver Resource, Aftermath Silver, Minorum Silver, Kootenay, Equity Metals Corporation, Tudor Gold Corporation, Galway Metals. These are the tiny little guys, and they're OTC stocks. A lot of them are on the Toronto Stock Exchange. They're more prospectors, explorers. They don't even make any money, okay? But with the price that it's taking to mine this ore and harvest the silver and gold and base metals also versus the market price, these companies, if these markets go the way that I think they're going to go, and these using the TA and looking at the charts of like a GR silver versus gold on a chart, they have consolidated. They are at all-time lows. You are buying at the rock bottom. And I mean, some of these could 10 or 20x, okay? So you put a G note in there and you're going to wake up one day and you turn 1,000 into 20. But this is not financial advice, and I do not recommend this for most people. So at Celebrate Christ, thank you so much for bringing that up. Doug McGregor has been all over the place talking about Venezuela, Greenland, etc. Sort of some interesting metrics. Exxon got in big trouble. They pushed back a little bit against the Trump administration, saying that this heavy, sour, high sulfur crude in Venezuela with no infrastructure set up down there is not going to be the boon that everybody thinks it is. And Trump was like, we're not going to let Exxon in there. He's going to Chevron, Valero, some of the other mining services, I think. But, Exxon will buy a bunch of Trump coin or something, and they'll be back in the race. Don't worry about Exxon. Rick Rule loves Exxon, by the way. Same kind of deal with Greenland. Greenland, everybody talks about the rare earths. Well, rare earths aren't really so rare. There are a lot of rare earths. What this comes down to is the refining and the processing. And now the Trump administration did partner with Korea Zinc to build the first smelter in 7 years in Clarksville, Tennessee. Smart move. But most of the rare earths and metals are refined in China, of course, because they're ahead of the game versus where the U.S. has been. And so, even if we appropriate Greenland or whatever's going on as all the European pension funds divest from U.S. treasuries, which is a total disaster, side note, it's going to take so much time to stand up refineries and refine that rare earth. I mean, at least the administration is thinking about it. I'm not saying it's right or wrong, but we don't have the refining capacity in reality. In terms of reserves, you've got China, Brazil, India, Australia, Russia as the top holders of rare earth reserves. Mine production, refining, yeah, it's China. I mean, China does the vast majority of it. So remains to be seen what'll happen about that. It was interesting. I had somebody, one of the Bitcoin boys, in the comments, and hey, I wish you all the luck in the world. I got a buddy that holds 50 Bitcoin. The opportunity cost of holding Bitcoin over the last year versus precious metals. I mean, look at David Bateman. He bought $800 million worth of silver, and he's 3x'd his investment at least. And you sat on your Bitcoin and watched it go down. Now, that being said, Gareth Holloway did predict a retracement of Bitcoin to 69K and then it going back up again to 150. So if that happens, I will trade the crap out of Bitcoin, okay? Because I want to harvest as much fiat as possible. And I wish you all the luck in the world. I hope Bitcoin goes to 20 million for you. I'm not sour on you, and I'm not telling you you're not savvy for investing in different cryptos. Francis Hunt likes Monero. It's just not where I choose to hold my store of wealth. And so that's that. So just to wrap up, have a really safe weekend. Now's a really good opportunity to just, sit on the couch, build a fire, watch something romantic with your significant other. In this household, we choose one fighting championship because I want to see 130-pound guys from Myanmar and Uzbekistan kick the absolute crap out of each other. But maybe you like something different, like you want to watch the Meghan Markle reality show where basically she buys crap from Whole Foods and then takes the label off and then wraps like a little bow around it and acts like she invented quantum mechanics. That show is so ridiculous, but if you're interested in that show, you're probably more interested in like cryptocurrency, so you're not even watching this channel. But whatever floats your boat, go do that. Don't go driving around. Have your stuff all prepped and ready to roll. Be ready for a power outage and have some water and food on hand as well. So be safe this weekend, and we will talk to you soon. Sunday night, oh, can't wait for it. Can't come soon enough. Full Bore Silver, like, subscribe, share. Talk to you soon.